Hello.
Hello.
So, why am I playing Frere Jacques tonight?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been going through my mind, and I think it's pretty obvious. Because the question in Frere Jacques, his brother Jacques, are you sleeping? Are
Right.
you sleeping?
Or are you awake?
Or are you awake? And that's the whole question, really. Are we sleeping or are we awake? So there it is. Frère Jacques,
Dormez-vous, dormez-vous,
sonne le
sonnez-la
matin,
mattina,
dan
din
don dan,
don,
dan
dan
don don.
don.
So I'm awake. I'm sick, but I'm awake. I still have COVID. James still
Mm-hmm.
has COVID, but not so bad. I'm really, really sick. But here we are one more time. And
Yes.
tonight, I want to talk about even if holding Trump accountable helps him get elected, we still need to do it.
Mm.
And I really want to talk about why that's true. I'm talking about, of course, the E. Jean Carroll case that was finally decided by a jury yesterday, including a majority of men, by the way,
That's
which
right.
goes to show you that not everybody is sleeping. And and why is this important? And why should we be taking risks like this? It's like, oh, he's going to say it's a witch hunt. It's the same thing. Like, okay, he's going out there and he's trying to overthrow the government violently. But we can't talk about that because his base is going to get upset and he'll get elected. So he's going to get elected for being a sexual predator, and he's going to get elected for trying to overthrow the government and for being a tax cheat and for all of these things. And we just have to be quiet because we might lose the election. So don't you think that elections are making cowards of us all? Is that what they're for? So, why do I think it's really important to stand up and speak about things like this, even if we're taking a chance on backlash, even if people don't like it? There's a lot of people who don't like a lot of things. And I'm not talking about um, disagreements about policy. You may say, well, I'm not sure exactly how transgenders should be handling their transitions and what is really good for kids and all that. I mean, real honest
By
conversations.
the way, we've already had a big hello from Catalina. Says good evening. Sends musical notes, piano keyboard, and a heart of love. Thank
All
you,
right,
Catalina.
Catalina. She's not asleep.
That's right.
So, I mean, there can be real discussions about real topics, but come on. There are some things that are very obvious. I know you don't think so, or some of you may not think so, but to me, there are things that are very obvious. Like people have a right to be who they are.
So Karen says, awake and present tonight.
All
Thank
right.
you, Karen, and thanks for the love.
Yay. Yes.
Elizabeth says, hi there, and she sends a heart of love.
Okay, well,
Thank
I guess
you.
she is awake and present also.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, welcome, welcome, welcome to Lighting the Way Granny Raps and Rocks. And so you guessed, you know what my topic is tonight.
Oh, yeah.
It's, facing the fear of backlash. Now, what is the fear of backlash? It's the fear of the consciousness of other people.
Mm.
Now, sometimes we need to fear our own consciousness because we're pretty pathetic ourselves, to be honest. And we don't always want to look at things squarely.
Oh, looky here. And Todd says, hi, Beth and James,
Hello,
and sends
Todd.
caring. And
Thank
Tracy
you.
says
Thank you.
hello and sends caring. Also,
Thank
thank you so
you.
much.
Thank you. So, as I say, there are things which honest people can disagree with. But people who say there should be no trans people, they should all be murdered. For instance, that I'm sorry. You know, if you have any modicum of spirituality, which this is supposed to be a Christian country, which is really getting me pissed off, right? I thought that Jesus said, "What you do to the least of my brethren, you do unto me."
Yep, that's the
So
quote.
drag queens and transgender people should be murdered or stomped out. They weren't. I just read somebody said in some school system. I don't remember. It was Texas or Florida. Is like there should be no trans people in school. No, I mean, well, I think we should just eliminate them, right? You know, you look at that and you say, "Excuse me." By your own belief system, that is not the way to treat people, right?
That's right.
I'm more concerned about your soul, actually, to tell you the truth. And also, by the way, while we're on the subject, what about how God created the universe? If you believe in God, you know, you claim to believe in God, you claim that you're Christian, and yet there's homosexuality at the very least throughout the animal kingdom. But I guess God forgot that day. It's like, oh, I'm anti homosexual, and I just slipped up because I was snoozing. Are you sleeping? Are you sleeping? God, are you, you know, did you remember what you did you have your Wheaties this morning? God. So anyway, the absurdity of it, the cruelty of it, the prejudice, and you know, last time I was all revved up, even though I had COVID and wanted to die, because of all the assaults on women's rights and the rights of other people. But today I'm really looking at this issue. It's like, what do we do when we are so scared of the consciousness of other people that we just give in, acquiesce, get passive, right? So many of us learn to be passive as children, right? Let's say mommy is a very abusive, violent person. This happens, right? Okay. So, especially when she's drinking or taking drugs or something like that. Okay. So now, what does the other parent say? Don't upset your mother, right? It's
Right.
usually the other way around. Don't upset your father because he's going to get angry and beat the shit out of everybody, including me. It's like, oh God, I have to be quiet because I can't upset my father or my mother because my other parent is going to get punished then, or I'm going to get punished, or my brother's going to get beat up. And so you say, okay, I'm going to be quiet, I'm going to be quiet, I'm going to be quiet. You know, you go to a church and everybody knows that the pastor is a sexual predator. But does he get called on it? Often not, right? Because don't upset the apple cart, apple cart, apple cart. Don't upset the apple cart. Eh, eh, eh. You know, we're not supposed to upset the apple cart, right? We're supposed to keep a certain profile.
Well, you remember
spin-
the Jesus with the money changers in the temple? He upset their tables. He threw the tables and
He
the money
did.
down.
He did. And
Word has it.
I have a very interesting interpretation of that little story, but I'm not going to share that with you right now. Not that I think. So, but my point is, we are trained to be passive. It's not an accident, and especially women are trained to be passive, right? But not just women, because if you're going to stand up to the boss, you may lose your job, or worse. You know, the union movement came out of a huge struggle of people who were willing to have their heads smashed in. That was not nice, right? But they spoke up, and because of the people who came before us, we have the right to vote. Excuse me, we women actually have the right to vote. We may not use it well, but we do have that right. And somebody I just read. I kid you not. I will not mention the party of this person. Just put forward the proposal that we raise the voting age to 25.
25?
25. Well, We don't want,
They're afraid of the youth folk.
of course. I mean, the whole thing about
Young, well-educated college students.
we can't have that. And we can't have black people voting. You know what they're like, right? And so suppress everybody and make sure that democracy does not reign on our parade.
It takes courage to stand up and say, hold that person accountable.
It does. And it takes a special kind of courage when you are facing the possibility that what you do is going to make it worse.
Oh.
It's like, oh, yeah. If you talk back to your father, you're going to get swatted in the mouth, right?
Mm.
So there it's like, oh my God, the consequences of actually speaking up are rather serious. And people are afraid. I mean, I was watching the some of the responses of some of our Republican representatives to that Donald Trump finally was held accountable for his sexual predator behavior towards women. Now, I feel sorry for the guy. I feel sorry for any guy.
And I feel sorry for the victims. Because imagine the traumas that they experienced and which have marred them and made life so much harder.
Absolutely. So I'm saying, okay, I'm not saying the guy is evil. I'm saying the guy has a problem, a major problem around sex. Now, do you remember the Access Hollywood tapes?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I thought, stupidly, by the way, when those tapes came out where Donald Trump was bragging about touching women inappropriately and grabbing women by their genitals, I thought, that's it, he's done. Oh, no. Oh, no.
He was able to get away with it by saying, oh, that was just locker room talk.
Yeah.
But now there's been a jury finding him liable, and that is not locker room talk.
And there are a lot of women who are coming out of his administration who are now talking about his behavior, his own. Stephanie Grisham, I think her name is, was one of his press secretaries who she had to protect the women from his behavior. And yet, it didn't really matter, James. Nobody took it seriously. And I stupidly thought he was done for with that. Again, I thought he needed rehabilitation. Poor guy. You know, what is his problem? Why does he need to be so powerful over women? Whatever it is, nobody is helping him. When you let a bully continue to bully, you're not helping them. You may elevate them in status. You may give them power, but you are not helping them to deal with their behavior. And that is a fact. So we let him get away with this, and then we let him get away with that, and then we let him get away with the other thing, and it's like, oh no, he's not really serious. He doesn't really mean that. And he goes and he tries to overturn the election, but he didn't really mean to. No, that was just, for fun. And a couple of people died, but I mean, he doesn't have to be held accountable for that. So now it's getting more and more things that he's being held accountable for. Tax fraud and trying to overthrow the government and trying to overthrow the Georgia electors and all of that.
Fake electors.
With fake electors. So, but what is the fear of everybody? Oh my God, his supporters are going to come out in droves and are going to support him even more, and then he'll be elected president again. Well, I would rather that his supporters elect him president than that I do it. Because this man needs help, and so do we. We women, I am so horrified when I see how women are playing that passive role, letting him get away with stuff that everybody saw and nobody said anything about it.
Or in their lives, with other men in their lives.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And one thing that irks me, he was attacked by, E. Jean Carroll was attacked by Trump's lawyers for not remembering the exact dates of things. One woman said, well, if I had been raped, then I certainly would remember the date. Well, good for you. I guess you've never been raped, because I have been raped at knife point 2 times by strangers, and I don't remember the date. One was from the 60s and one was from the 70s. I do not remember the date. Gee, I wonder why I don't remember the date. That was
so
the only thing.
traumatized. Who could think of the date?
Who was thinking about the date? But I did tell somebody, as did she. And I love the fact that some older woman has finally gotten him convicted of something, right? So, but supposing I don't trust other women, I saw a picture. I hope it's not true. You know that transgender Montana representative? Was she a senator? Anyway, and she was pushed out, Zoe Zephyr or something, her name. I have no memory. You see, I'm going to remember a date. I don't remember something that happened yesterday. So anyway, there was only one place for her to sit because she was being pushed out of the legislature. She wasn't allowed to speak. And there was one place for her to sit. And I saw a picture, is this really true, of a bunch of women sitting in those seats to make sure she could not sit outside the room to do her job. It broke my heart. And they had this kind of like, oh, are we great kind of look. No, you're not great. There's nothing great about it. Absolutely nothing great about it. This does not fit your picture of who you are as a good Christian, right? So I get discouraged, and I think, what is wrong with women? Well, I know what's wrong with women. Women have been taught to be subservient. I mean, look at the fact that there is still female genital mutilation that is being perpetrated by the mothers of these poor African girls, right? And there's been a big fight against it. But women do continue that tradition because they've been taught that that is what's going to make their daughters desirable on the market. Right, that's important. They have to be desirable on the marriage market. So you can't have them, and it happened to them and their mothers, and it's tradition, and this is tradition, and that's tradition, and it's all tradition. I mean, it's all, having men walking around with assault rifles and shooting each other up is tradition. I mean, isn't that tradition, James?
Some people's traditions,
It's some people's traditions, and blowing the heads off, poor other animals, and it's tradition. It's what makes a man a man. And what makes a woman is like, yes, dear, but she feels powerful because she's dominating some other person who is beneath her, like beating her children or bullying a transgender. That makes her powerful. It doesn't make her powerful. It makes her colluding in hurting another human being. That is not what it means to be a woman. So now what do I do if I sit there and I say, oh no, if I speak up against this, he's just going to get more votes. So be it. This is what I'm trying to say. If you're going to get more votes for terrorizing women, molesting women, abusing women, being a predator to women, if you're going to get more votes for getting away with that, like the big wink and all of that, so be it. Get more votes. If you're going to see a bunch of women who are supporting this, like for instance, you do know that there has been some effort to ban child marriage in West Virginia, right? Well, we can't have that. You can't stop child marriage. It's tradition. in West Virginia that women are, 14 years old and getting pregnant. I mean, that's the best way. You know something? I understand wanting to be able to get married before you're the age of 18. When I was 17 years old, I wanted to get away from my parents, and I actually was willing to get married to a guy who was totally inappropriate for me. It was right before my 18th birthday, but I was so desperate to get away from my parents that I was willing to do that. So I can see situations where a girl wants to get away from her parents, or supposing the father is molesting her, or there's a lot of reasons that somebody might feel suffocated in their life and want to go off and get married because they think that's going to be the freedom, that's going to give them the freedom. But, I'll tell you one thing. Our brains are not that well sorted at that age. I'm not so sure that our brains are that well sorted even as adults. But, we have young people who are making decisions and are getting pregnant. Of course, we can't then give them the chance to have birth control or have abortions, right? So now your life is dominated by some silly fantasy that you have, that you believe is going to bring you, a slice of heaven. And then the guy, you see what he's really like because he's freaked out by the fact that have a child, and now he beats you. But, that's a decision that you should make without any support. So I can see both sides. You see what I'm saying? I'm not talking about mindless disagreements where you're not looking at all the considerations. I don't believe in that. But I think we need to look at the whole picture. We should look at the whole picture of trans youth. Read what people are saying. See what the trans youth are saying, what they need. Talk about it and see what is really the most benign. And most of this gender affirming treatment is counseling, maybe some hormones and stuff like that to try to help somebody not commit suicide. I mean, can't we show a little caring for one another instead of just taking positions? But in the meantime, when we look at so much of what is passing for good support, like banning books that tell the truth about American history, that gets me. When I was a youngster and the Vietnam War was going on, I didn't really become aware of the Vietnam War until 1961. And at that time, I was 16 years old. I started to become aware of the war in Vietnam, but even more by 1963. And that was a hideous war. And it was all deception. And we had to do something to stop it. And do you have any idea why I brought this topic up?
Why did you bring this topic
I
up?
have no idea. I can't even remember. I just got blocked, totally blocked, about why I brought up the topic of being young. So just because you're young doesn't mean you're stupid, by the way, because sometimes the young are going to call you out on what is, you just believe the government. So I'm not somebody who believes, oh yeah, I just believe everything the government says. I grew up at a time when it was very obvious that the government lied. But when I'm looking at these other guys and I don't see any effort to be historically honest, that's why I brought this up. The truth is that American history is very messy, and ugly in many ways. The way we have treated minorities, the way we have treated women, the way we have treated blacks, slavery, and so on. It is complete nonsense to say that children shouldn't be upset by reading the truth. You know what's really upsetting is when you're cramming lies down our throats. And I think that the children can see themselves the lies. And it's confusing to them because they're not supposed to call them lies, but they are lies. And telling the truth about American history is essential. I studied history. That was my field in school. And guess what? It's ugly. It's ugly. It's all ugly. It's not just America. There's ugliness everywhere. And we could even talk about that. So why don't we bring more truth instead of less truth? I cannot understand how anyone can call it education by depriving people of the opportunity to feel, to experience awareness of our history. Oh, yes, some white child is going to feel ashamed. Well, I did. I felt ashamed. I felt ashamed when I saw German shepherds attacking little black children in the South who were just trying to go to school. I felt ashamed. Is that a bad thing? That's a good thing. We should feel ashamed. When I started reading about slavery, it's like, oh my God, there's a lot to feel ashamed about. But I'm not saying we're supposed to blame every little white child and say, oh, you're a bad person and now you should need to be beaten because of racism. That is not the point. The point is to be aware of how racism has impacted people of every color, including white.
Oh yeah, that's so true. That's where accountability is so important.
This
And having
is
the courage to speak up.
exactly. So if, what am I supposed to say? Be nice to the Nazis because they could be even worse. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say you're sick. Why are you doing this? Why
And
do
I'll do
you?
everything in my power to stop you.
I'm going to do everything I can to stop you and everything I can to help you. And
yeah.
that's really the point. Everyone, all these people who are pretending that they're doing the noble thing and who are really protecting children, please, give me a break. Let children be abused every day and then make something about, oh my God, a drag queen is going to read them a story. No, we've got to be more honest. More honest, more honest, more honest. Honest with ourselves, honest about ourselves, and honest about one another. Women, come on. Do the right thing. You know what's right. And I don't care how many hate emails I get or notices from Facebook. Hate me if you want to. I really don't care. So anyway, this is Lighting the Way, Granny Raps and Rocks. Today's the 10th of May. Please like this show. Please love this show. Please pass on this show to all the people that you think are going to be aggravated or who might feel supported. Because how do you know that that person that you're confronting doesn't need that confrontation? How do you know that deep in their heart? I knew a lovely woman who grew up in Alabama during the civil rights movement. And I said, what did you feel as you were watching all of this happening? And she said, nothing. I felt nothing, right? Because I didn't want to know what was going on. And then ultimately, we do need to know. And we need to support each other because there's going to be somebody out there who's going to hear what you have to say, who needs to hear it because it will strengthen them to do what they already know is right.
By the way, we have some comments.
Okay.
Amy came on and said, hi, Beth and James, wonderful topic. It's easy to give up on holding people accountable when it seems that so few people are.
That's right. But more and
she
more
goes
they
on,
are.
And she goes on to say, I meant when so few other people are willing to hold accountable the people who are breaking the law or
Right.
otherwise committing crimes.
That is right.
Blanquita says, hello, Beth and James, and sends a couple of hearts of love. Muchas gracias.
Gracias,
And
Blanquita.
Eris says, Beth, James, hope you're fine from Jakarta.
Welcome. Welcome, everyone. So please share this show. Please like it. Please love it. Please follow our we've been getting a lot of followers lately. I don't know why. I don't know who these people are, and I don't know why they're following, but I'm glad that they are.
Glad to have you with us.
Yeah, and leave your comments. I can talk to you later after the show,
sure.
and come back next week, next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time for Lighting the Way, Granny Raps and Rocks. And maybe I'll still be sick, in which case, as you can see, the sicker I am, the more spunky I am.
Spunky you are. Yeah,
Right.
that's right.
Now I'm going to go to sleep. We love you. We thank you.
Yeah, God bless you, and thank you so much for being
And
with
don't
us.
forget to come on tomorrow night, Thursday night at 7 p.m. Pacific time, where we do magical improvs, play music,
Beth Green and the Healing Arts Band.
very healing music. We love
Yeah.
you. Bye bye.
Bye-bye for now.